you're ready.
We're about starting. Okay, so we're good to go. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first FCDC LinkedIn Review series. And today we will be reviewing the LinkedIn profiles of some of our members. So just in case this is your first FCDC meeting, the FCDC is a global community that provides mentorship opportunities and resources to BIPOC marketers and developers. Thanks to Chima Meje, the founder of the FCDC, and the awesome team for providing these opportunities. I'm going to be joining you at this point to give a virtual clap. Thank you very much. Yes, and as I mentioned, our amazing guest today, Joe Glover, will be the one reviewing these LinkedIn profiles. And just a brief thing about who Joe Glover is for anyone who doesn't know. He is the co-founder of the Marketing Meetup, a global community of over 50,000 marketing professionals inspired by the desire to see marketers connect meaningfully and, in their words, be positively lovely. So don't forget that. And also for someone who has a personal LinkedIn following of over 83,000 members, who believe that he is in the right place to tell us what a strong LinkedIn profile looks like, and especially if you are looking to stand out to recruiters. So I'm going to be handing over to Joe to do us the honors today. But before then, please help me welcome, appreciate, and celebrate Joe Glover. If you have your emojis, I want to see them coming in. Thank you very much, Johnson. Please, let's have more. Thank you. Thank you very much, Joe, for joining us. We are so glad to have you join us today.
Not at all. Honestly, it's a real privilege. Can I just say what a huge, that was the best introduction ever. So thank you very, very much. And I'm just such a massive fan of what you're all up to. And Chima in particular is one of the best human beings that I've met in the past couple of years. So it's a real privilege. So, thank you for the opportunity, truly, because it's just lovely. I'm glad to be help. No, you're very welcome. And so in advance of today's session, I've received 10 profiles, but we're going to focus on 5 to start off with. And I'm assuming that we've had permission to sort of share them live as we go through. So if that's okay, I'll screen share so I can sort of speak about and show you what I'm speaking about at the same time. So the first one is Sonali, and I can see that you're here on the chat. So it's lovely to say hello, Sonali, and I hope you're doing fabulously and having a lovely day. So to give context, and again, I just want to do a permission check here. I'm okay to share the challenge, right? So that folks are all
Yes.
Cool, no problem at all. So let me read out the challenge, and then I'll speak about what I think we can do to help. So Sonali's in the situation here about wanting to get ghostwriting opportunities for C-suite executives, solopreneurs, and SMB owners for writing and storytelling services. Sonali has an established client base on Upwork with 100% success rate, which is really amazing. So congratulations on there, but has never really spoken about that on LinkedIn or shared anything for the fear of someone offering something, for the perception that the services will be seen as just cheap rates rather than really expertise. So I went through this profile with that in mind. If Sonali is looking to get ghostwriting opportunities from these folks, then the feedback I would give is as follows. So the first thing that I wanted to point out is that I think it's a really strong profile. So I went through and I didn't go, oh my goodness, there's anything really wrong right here with this profile. I thought it was actually really good. So I'm now nitpicking rather than sort of pointing out anything that is fundamentally wrong. The first thing I wanted to compliment actually was, Sonali, your posts are beautiful. When you write, I can see someone who's contemplative, who sort of has a diverse range of interests, and I think I just really like them a lot. And for anyone looking to take example on how to write beautifully, then Sonali, I think you're right there with it. However, when we talk about opportunities for improving the profile, as I see it, then there's a few things. The first is that you mentioned in your challenge that you'd like to write for C-suite executives, founders, and solopreneurs. And I think this is a really good start, but my perception is that that is still super broad. You can be a C-suite person who works in a 10-person company, or you could be the CEO of Microsoft. Same with solopreneurs and SMB owners. You could be an e-commerce owner, or you could work in SEO. It's really, really broad. And I think despite your posts being really beautiful, what I don't see is you speaking to any of their challenges. And I think this is because your target market is so broad that ultimately you're not able to focus your profile in on any group of people, because it's just so wide. And so I think your biggest challenge to start off with your profile is actually not so much about the structure or the about, which I think are written really well. I think it's actually taking some time to understand your target market a little bit more and really try to nail into a specific group of people, even more so than your C-suite executive founders and solopreneurs. And the kind of statement that I think would be beneficial for you here is like, I write for founders in India who are too busy, or I write for founders in the e-commerce space with 5 to 10 employees. We're looking for that level of specificity for the reason that you'll be able to understand their challenges far greater. You'll be able to write for them in a much better way, but you'll also be able to produce your content in a way which sort of matches them. Your connection strategy, so i.e. when you're trying to get in touch with those folks, can also be far more focused on those people. And really, I think this is the fundamental challenge with your profile on this page. Everything else will follow from a specificity of that target audience. I also have a couple of very sort of tactical, smaller points, which I think could hopefully help. And this comes from the perspective that whenever I land on someone's LinkedIn page, I'm now having to ask myself the question, are they a real human being? Because they could be AI, they could be using AI, etc., etc. And particularly if someone's going to be my ghostwriter, I want to know they're an actual person using their own language. And so here, I just noticed in your profile, you got a couple of M dashes. Now, I know that M dashes used in the right context is great grammar, but it does feel like a signal of AI these days, unfortunately. So I would just, in your about section, I'd just make sure to possibly take those out, unfortunately, which is a shame because it's good grammar as well. The other thing that was worth mentioning is that in one of your posts, you mentioned that you really like doing text-based posts. And I think that's a really important thing for you to have the self-awareness of. You like showing up at the moment with text-based posts. That was this one from 5 days ago. But the opportunity, I think, is just to have a little bit of experimentation. Sort of if you're finding that your posting isn't getting the engagement that you would like, then maybe switching things up with a photo, a graphic, a case study, etc., etc. Specifically, and once again related to your target audience, I think that could be the opportunity right there if you want to do a bit of experimentation. The last two things that I'll comment on this profile. The first is when I clicked into your profile picture. Again, if I'm trying to prove that like someone is a real human being, then your profile picture was just a little bit small. So like even when you try to enlarge it, it remained the same size. And again, if I'm looking to prove that someone's a real person, then maybe a higher resolution profile photo might just enable you to sort of prove life a little bit more. And then I finally had an idea for your content, because I thought the spirit of your profile was so positive and thoughtful and just like so brilliant. So I thought what you could do is that quite a lot of people will do like content teardowns, where they'll sort of like take a piece of content that they've seen on the internet and sort of say, well, it could be done better this way. I wondered whether you had the opportunity for something which I decided to call content lift-ups. So rather than sort of speaking to the things which are terrible about pieces of content, how about the opportunity with your content to speak about case studies and examples of things that you think are brilliant, and using that as an opportunity to also tag in the company, tag in the person who wrote the piece of content, tag in the founder of that organization, and just sort of say, I think what you did was amazing for these reasons, and being quite comprehensive. I think if you're being very complimentary about someone's work, then they're far more likely to want to engage with you and sort of build that relationship as well. So that was all of my notes for you, Sonali. Because I can see or hear, is that at all useful? And if there's any questions or anything at all, then I'd be super happy to take them. Maybe not then. No problem at all. Oh, there you go. No problem at all. Wicked. Well, no problem at all. And I'm super happy to provide the list as well. And the same goes to anyone else whose LinkedIn profile we speak about today. So I hope that's useful. So that was the first one I went through. The second one. Oh, Sonali, you've unmuted. So
yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Joe. Thank you
no
for
problem.
all the suggestions and advice. I'm going to try them, and they're really good. And the feedback was good.
I'm so glad. Not at all. You're very welcome. And like, if I can do anything else, then please let me know. Drop me a message, and I'll be delighted to offer any more thoughts.
Sure, thanks.
No problem at all. So the second profile we go to. So the first thing I wanted to note on this page was like, I loved the spirit of it. So we started off with this beautiful line, which is, I'm an introvert seeking new opportunities to build myself. And I just thought that was really lovely, because I'm an introvert too. And so like I felt a bit of kinship with you when I read this, and I thought that was fabulous. So that was the first thing. I thought that gave across a real nice bit of humanity straight off the bat. However, when we come to opportunities for building and improvement, then the first thing that sort of struck me was that when we entered the page for the first time, we got this great image, which is really nice, has high resolution, sort of shows you on the page. And then we've also got this cover image, which looked a little bit pixelated to me. And it looked like there was something which was off the screen, which we didn't want to be off the screen. And that's probably another service, I would imagine. And so straight off the bat, as soon as I landed on the page, I was like, oh, okay, cool. You know, that feels like an immediate opportunity to do something pretty small, but pretty effective straight off the bat. So with your cover image, it's 1584 by 396 pixels, and that would be the opportunity to either create a new graphic or sort of just resize the one you've got, particularly as you said that you're a graphics designer. Then like showing your work straight away is going to be really, really important. The thing that I didn't acknowledge at the front here is the challenge. So the challenge is I'm trying to transition to digital marketing through developing content strategies. I plan to practice more of what I've learned through my profile and give opportunities for work. So we're in a place of wanting to transition to content strategies. And so with that in mind, it doesn't actually say anywhere on your page anything about content strategies. And that feels like a real opportunity. So I would be putting this in your job title. So content strategy, and ideally for a specific target market. So again, we're not just speaking to a content strategy in general, but for a specific target market. And if you don't know who that target market is currently, then a very simple exercise is to imagine who your dream clients would be, and sort of start to orientate yourself around their activity. There were a couple of opportunities with typos, and I thought this was quite important because we've got copy editor here, so it would need a space to be copy editor. And then likewise down the bottom, I edit copies would become I edit copy. And again, this is just like small things, but if I'm assessing the profile, and particularly in the context of a copy editor, then that would be stuff that I'd definitely pick up on. Heading back up to the About section, then there was a real opportunity here, and I pointed out how lovely I think the line is at the beginning here, which is, I'm an introvert seeking new opportunities to build myself. The challenge I would give you is that if I was reading the profile, I would go, that's really lovely that you're an introvert looking to build yourself, but what's in it for me? And that's a selfish perspective, but I think it's a truthful one if I'm landing on your profile for the first time ever. So I think the opportunity is for this first line, you can absolutely keep in around introversion, but I do think we need to be able to answer the following question. I help my target audience by doing a specific thing. And if you're able to fill in the gaps, which is what your target audience is and the exact services you offer, then people will land on your profile being able to know exactly what you do straight off the bat. I feel like that's a real opportunity, that currently everything on the profile is orientated to ourselves rather than the people reading it. And I think when we're thinking about our LinkedIn profiles, we have to be thinking about what the person reading it is going to think, not necessarily the thing that we would like to write about ourselves, if that makes sense. The last piece of advice, thought, is that you're currently not posting or commenting, and this does feel like an opportunity. I know that this feels like the most basic advice, but often if people are concerned about posting, then the opportunity is just to start by commenting. But not just commenting generally. The encouragement I would give you is, once you've established what your target audience is to go out and find people who match that and start commenting on their stuff. There's no point commenting on your brother and sister's content if they're not in the same industry. But if you've got some people that you specifically like to target, then that would be the opportunity. So again, sort of target market stuff, but then we've also got the opportunity for some smaller tactical tweaks as well. So I hope that helps on this profile. Any questions from anyone on this sort of stuff? I'm most welcome. No, cool, no problem at all. Well, let's head to number 3 then. So third, we come to Monica. No problem at all. You're very welcome, and I hope that helps as well. So third, we come to Monica. So Monica says, I want to be reviewed because I want to attract clients and recruiters for admin / exec VA roles and social media marketing. I've been optimizing, but I don't think I've been doing enough. There's something I'm missing. So Monica if you're watching in, then I just want to start off by saying I think you're amazing. I think you have done an incredible job with your profile. I went through this and I had basically no comments for you about your profile structure. I think your cover image is fantastic, really professional shot. Your headline, so with some evidence in here, is fantastic. You've identified CEOs and founders, but more importantly, you've identified the challenge that they have that you can solve. And you've been very clear on the things that you do. And then when I saw your about section, again, super clear. And I thought this was a really fantastic example of a really well optimized LinkedIn profile. So actually, the first thing that I want to do to you, or do for you, is just say you're doing great. And like maybe fixating on whether the LinkedIn profile is right or wrong is actually maybe not the thing that we need to be concerned about at all, because I think you've done a brilliant job optimizing your profile. Instead, I think where the opportunity lies for you specifically is when I dropped into your comment section. And hey Tima's picture on screen, of course. The opportunity came from your comment section. So I can see that you're commenting really regularly on LinkedIn, which I think is fantastic. But when I went into the profiles and the types of people that you were commenting on, then I found that you were commenting predominantly on posts from your peers and people who weren't necessarily aligned to your target market. Now that's fine, you know, it's very fine, because LinkedIn is a social media platform and like ultimately we've got to enjoy using it. But it strikes me that when you said your challenge is that you want to attract clients and recruiters for specific kinds of roles, then the thing that I would be encouraging you to do is to be commenting on the recruiters' posts and commenting on the CEO's posts and making yourself known to them by showing up regularly for those people. I think, as I say, if someone lands on your profile, they're already going to feel like you've done a great job. They're going to get a strong sense of who you are, what you do, and how well you do it. But I think at this stage, it's really about driving people to your profile. And I don't think it's about posting for you. I think it's about commenting. And I think it's about being very specific about who you comment on the profile of. So only 2 notes. First off, the first note is well done, brilliant job. And then the second note, an opportunity, is your commenting strategy is probably should be orientated around your target market. I feel like that will be the next unlock for you, and hopefully build a few relationships that you don't have currently. So I hope that helps, but also just well done once again. Let's move to number 4. Is everything making sense so far? Any opportunities, any questions for anyone coming off the back of anything that's been said so far? All good. Well, thank you. Thank you for the lovely emojis, by the way, as well. That's really appreciated. So, oh, we've got a question. We've got hands up. Go for it. Or maybe not. Cool. All right, I'll carry on, but pop it in the chat if you'd like to, and I'll definitely pick up. I don't know if yours is on the list, but as far as I understand, this will be a type of session that you'll be doing semi-regularly, so maybe that's the opportunity there in terms of profiles for review in the future. So let's go to number 4, and we have Saloni. So the challenge that was put across here is I want mine to be reviewed because it doesn't reflect how I work today. Over the past few years, I've moved beyond just writing. I work on content that's tied to product, user journeys, and search intent. I handle research, shape angles based on what's already ranking, and write with a clear goal in mind. But my profile still reads like a generic SaaS content writer and that gap is holding me back. When someone lands on my profile, I don't think they immediately see the depth of my work or the kind of SaaS problems I can help with. That's what I want to fix. I want to be clear with what I do, how I think, and where I fit without someone having to guess. From this review, I'm hoping to gain clarity on how to position myself better. I want my headline, about section, and experience to feel tight and intentional and not a list of tasks, which is fair enough. I also want to understand what's missing right now that would make someone take me seriously within a few seconds of reading my profile. So when I landed on this profile, I immediately felt the warmth. It felt like a really lovely thing that you've done here, Saloni, is with your by giving the pronunciation of your name, but then also...
Hello, my name is Saloni and I'm a B2B SaaS writer.
I don't know if everyone else could hear that, but it was a really nice message. It was like a really warm message that came across really well, humanizes you instantly. If we go back to that first or second profile and we're looking to verify that someone's a real human being, immediately, like, I know that you are, and that's really, really fantastic. The second thing I wanted to point out, which I thought was really useful for anyone else watching in, was the clients in the headline. That immediately acted as like a real strong authenticity piece for me. It was like, okay, cool. You know, I know that A, you're human, B, that you work with some really, really cool people, which is fantastic. My second point on your profile is possibly a slightly controversial one, and I'm careful with this, but when you put across in your writing that you felt like a generic SaaS content writer, etc., at no point did you really mention the LinkedIn ghostwriting. And for me, that felt like, if that's not something you really want to hang your hat on and sort of say, you know, this is the thing that I want to be doing, then I'd be taking that out, and I'd be really specific on, this is the thing which I do, which in your case is a B2B SaaS content strategist. In your headline, if you then take out LinkedIn ghostwriter, you're immediately into the clients include, which is really strong. And the reason why it's strong is that when you're commenting on other people's posts, the clients include is likely to be cut off on the comment thing. So they won't see this client include thing. However, if you took out LinkedIn ghostwriter, then clients include would be moved across and people will be like, oh, curious, I wonder who your clients are, etc., etc. I think the second opportunity in your headline is, if it was then B2B content strategist dash clients include dash, then I would sort of have like a positioning point. What is the thing which you do better than anyone else? And I think the answer is actually written in your question. So what you said, Saloni, when you wrote in was, I handle research, shape angles based on what's already ranking, and write with a clear goal in mind. It's clear to me that that's like based on experience, right? You know, that's someone who's worked with people, who has seen generic content and said, look, this doesn't convert. So I think this is a bit of your positioning. I think your positioning is, I write words that hit goals, not for the sake of it. And I think there's probably some language that you're going to be better at writing than I will be, that sort of speaks to hitting goals, not just for the sake of it. The next note I made about your profile was your about section. So I think you're right. This came across really warm. So I read the whole thing because I was like, I'm here to read it. You know, I want to find out more. I want to help. I want to critique. But if I was reading this from the perspective of someone landing on your profile for the first time and trying to evaluate if you were the person who I would want to work with, then I'd like you to get to the point a lot quicker. So I think you've got 4 sections. I think you've got you feel, and by you feel, I mean the person reading this, the B2B SaaS person, feels that content doesn't hit their goals, feels that their writing isn't based on what's already ranking, that they feel that their research, that their writing isn't well researched enough. So they feel these things, and there was probably other feelings that you could point to. The second section in 3 bullet points is I am. So what you do, who you are, and maybe like a fun fact or something similar, to really sort of drive home that humanization point. The third section that I think you should put in is my process. So again, you've pointed to in your question, you research, you shape angles, and then you write with a goal in mind. That's 4 very clear steps, and it's a very clear opportunity to position yourself not only with who you are, but the process that you bring. And then you've already done this here, but I think the next steps is like, okay, cool. So you've read these things, you know how I feel, I know who you are, I know what the process is. So what's the next step? And so you could probably just keep this in, but put it as a bullet point. Ultimately, you'd end up with like 10 bullet points that are super readable for someone landing on the page and feeling like they know what they're getting from it. The final suggestion for this page with you, Solani, was your posts. I thought, again, your posts were fantastic. I loved reading them. I found them really interesting, but they didn't feel nailed into the problems that people in SaaS businesses really experience. And so if I was you, I'd be looking to answer that question more regularly. You feel X, well, the solution is Y. And continually demonstrating that you know the solution to their problem and being generous with it. I feel like a lot of people just want these problems being taken away from them rather than sort of like wanting to do them themselves. So don't be afraid to show your expertise. I think like it's clear that you've got a lot. It's clear that your writing is beautiful. It's clear that there's so much good stuff here. So like if you can tie your posting really strongly into the problems that your people feel, then I think that is a really strong posting opportunity. And that was everything I had for you there, Saloni. Hopefully that's okay. So if there's any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. Otherwise, I'll move straight through to the last profile that I analysed, which was Deborah. So, Deborah, what did I write for you? Well, the first thing that I wrote for Deborah was, you've done a brilliant job. And again, like I feel like I've been very praising of folks. In fact, let me take one step back and read Deborah's challenge before continuing to any advice. So the challenge was this: I want to connect with more people in my field and also potential clients. I'm a B2B SaaS writer who's been on LinkedIn for years, but I haven't got the hang of the platform. I tried to stay consistent in the past year, but my account got hacked and I relapsed after retrieval, which, by the way, totally feel like it's really hard to stay consistent on the platform. So like, you're not alone in that. I know there's potential to grow and connect on LinkedIn. I even landed a client there, but I know I can do better and be more. So I want a guide that goes beyond keep posting and stay consistent, which is a really good call out. I want to be strategic with this. So let me hopefully be a bit strategic with any advice that I can give. So first off, when I came to your profile, a little bit like what we spoke about previously with Saloni, I thought you did a fantastic job with your job title, with the cover, the profile picture. It all just reads really strongly. It's very, very clear straight off the bat what you do. And actually, as soon as you get into your about section, then again, I think it's very clear and concise. But you gave me the challenge of like doing something which was beyond keep posting and stay consistent. And so the strategy I want to offer you is actually not anything about your profile and everything about who you're connecting with. So I can see that you've connected with, you got 2009 followers. So like you're active on the platform in terms of building that network. But the challenge I want to ask you is, the first step is asking you, who is your perfect client? And I think you've already started to do this with your profile, because you've already nailed on B2B content for fintech and SaaS brands. So what I mean by who is your perfect client is the job title that they have, but also the headspace which they kind of inhabit. So there will be certain kinds of fintech and SaaS brands that are just perfect for your character and your personality. And there'll be other ones which are just not a good fit, even though they are a fintech or SaaS brand. So really taking the time to inspect that job title, but also that personality fit, I think is going to be a really good starting place for identifying potential clients. The second thing that I'd like you to do is, once you've identified the companies, the job titles, and the kind of characters that you want to work with, is write a list of 100 of them, or get ChatGPT to do it for you. And the reason why this is important is, particularly in a B2B context, I think a lot of us forget that we don't need 1,000 new clients. We could get 10 new clients in a year and have a fantastic year when it comes to offering our services. So if you get a 10% conversion rate off that 100, like, I think you have a much better opportunity at growing your business, rather than just looking to reach 10,000 people. So write a list of 100 people who would be perfect to work with. And again, you can get ChatGPT to do it for you as well. After you've done that, then this is where the strategic element comes in. Like, connect with those people, but with a note saying, hi Sonali, you're on my screen here, so like, I'm picking on you. I'm a big fan of your work, and so I just wanted to connect. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. I don't think a connection request really means a lot on LinkedIn these days, but just to have these people in your network. And then you've got a 3-step process that I'd like to offer you after that point. Once you've connected with these people, you've been intentional with who they are that you're commenting with, then your process is as such. First, drop them a message. Just say, thank you so much for connecting. Re-register that you're a fan of their work. Show that you've paid attention to what they're up to. Particularly in some of these fintech companies, which aren't like hugely fashionable, then it'll be relatively rare for these people to be noticed and have their work appreciated. So like, they may just come back and sort of say thank you. I don't expect it to be a lot more than that, but it may just be a thank you. The second thing to do is consistent commenting with your 100. And like, I know that this feels like a little bit in the wheelhouse of your keep posting and stay consistent comment, but like, I think this is where the magic happens. I can think of some people in my community who show up so regularly in my comments that I feel like I know them now, just by virtue of them commenting on my stuff really regularly. And I think this is where you would like to be too. So if you've got 100, then all 100 are not going to be posting every day. So just keep a tab on them, create a list of these folks, and try to stay in touch with them as often as you can. And then the third step that I'd offer you is that when you feel comfortable and when you feel like they are understanding who you are, then that's the moment to drop a quick audit message. And it's not so much like a full 10-page document of like, your copy can be doing this, or et cetera, et cetera. But what you may say is, hey, I just signed up for your newsletter flow, and I noticed that this sentence could be doing with a little bit of work. I just wanted to offer a suggestion and once again, help out. Again, this is all about relationship building, but people aren't going to be in the market for a writer at all moments in time. But what you're doing is building a connection. And if people have seen your writing, understood that you understand them, then when the time comes, then that's the opportunity for them to get in touch. So hopefully that stays away from keep posting and stay consistent, and actually is far more about connections and commenting, which is a different strategy and hopefully a useful one. But once again, Deborah, just want to say fantastic job on your profile, and very well done. I actually do have one more that I took a look at. So as we've got a little bit of time, I'll speak to that, and then I'll hand back over if that's okay, for any questions if there are any. So the last one is Oluchi, and I hope that's the correct pronunciation. But let's speak to your profile. So this is a long challenge, and so I'm not going to read it all out, but I think the crux of Aluchi's challenge here is one paragraph here. I struggle deeply with how to position myself. Do I present myself as a versatile creative who can move fluidly across industries, or do I niche down and commit to a more focused specialist identity? Excuse me. Within here, there's also a second message, which is I want to stop feeling intimidated every time I open the app. And like the first thing I think is just like really important in answering this challenge is actually nothing about the profile at all. I think it's everything about how we feel when we enter LinkedIn, and the intimidation factor that can kind of exist on the platform. So in terms of my feedback for you, then I just want to start off with a quiet voice and my shoulders relaxed, and just sort of saying, you're doing fine. I read that message of like, I want to stop feeling intimidated every time I open that app. And I was like, this feels like something which I do all the time, which is being overly self-critical of myself when I'm actually doing an okay job. And really, I think a lot of this applies to LinkedIn in general, because we see people show up with like bluster and loud voices and pretending to be something they're not. But actually here, like, you're doing fine. Like, your profile picture, cover photo, super professional. Your writing is lovely. I think there's probably a couple of tweaks that we can make here. Like, if I was being like super picky, then stuff like the fun facts around the beavers, etc., it probably shouldn't go in your about thing. It feels like extra words when there doesn't need to be. But honestly, the message that I wanted to put across with this profile is like, we have time, we have space, our careers are long, we need to figure these things out, and sometimes there's a moment where these things just sort of click for us and we're like, I know who I am, and I know who I want to help, and I know how to get this across. And so I wanted to put across a message that like the stakes are actually quite low, like, without meaning to trivialize how we all show up, because we all feel like what we do is really important, and it is. Nobody is going to message you in 2 years' time and sort of say, remember that post that you made about whatever. Most people will ignore most content because there is so much out there. And so I just wanted to finish off all of these breakdowns by sort of saying, you're okay, you're doing fine. But if you would like to work through this process, then we can absolutely do that, and message me afterwards. But also just be kind to yourself and forgive yourself that not everything is going to be perfect, because like nothing is perfect. And so really that's the best advice that I can give you, because actually the stuff you've done is great. So we can sort of use that as a base going forwards. Okay. For someone who says they don't like talking very much, then I've just talked for the past 40 minutes consecutively. So I'm going to go quiet now and say, I hope that helped.
Thank you, Joe. Awesome reviews. I particularly like the reviews about the commenting strategy. Also helpful for me as well. We have a question in the chat. I'll just go through it, and then any other persons who have questions, since we have 4 minutes. So she says, do I talk about Upwork? This is Sonali. Do I talk about Upwork on LinkedIn, my 349 project and success rates, or forget that part completely? And do I need clients' permissions to talk about ghostwriting projects? I have worked for a handful of big brands, but I haven't talked about them openly because they were one-off, and requests for recommendations on LinkedIn were met with silence.
Okay. So it's a really interesting challenge around sort of platforms like Upwork and Fiverr, et cetera, et cetera. And I think this comes down a little bit to knowing your target audience. There will be some people who hold a negative perception of like Upwork or Fiverr or these platforms or whatever it is. Other target clients won't, and so you need to know what your target clients feel about those platforms before you mention them. But when it comes to 349 projects and the success rate, etc., then that's something I definitely would be mentioning. I would be using those projects however you can to sort of speak about that. And so even if you don't say Upwork, you can sort of say over 349 clients delighted with my work, or whatever it may be. In terms of client permissions, then I don't know the ins and outs of the Upwork platform to know how that works in terms of permission. I would be respectful, but I also, it's hard for me to give you the advice to sort of say, don't worry about it, because that's not fair. That's my first instinct, would be like, if there's a brand that feels like they're a great project to speak about, then my instinct is to say, try and speak about that. But I don't know like the legality of that sort of stuff. So I'm a little bit careful about sort of saying, give specific brand names if you don't have permission, or if you've been under NDA when you've been working for them. So only you know that bit. But I would definitely be making a big deal of those 349 projects for sure.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for the advice.
No problem at all. Appreciate it. And yeah, you've been doing good stuff. So congratulations again.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Do we have any other questions? Maybe we could take one more before we wrap up the session.
No problem at all.
Okay. I think this is from Sophia. She says, I don't always know what to comment on the post of my prospect. Let's say I write for MarTech brands and I want to get into fintech. I'm reading up and learning about fintech, but still feel like a beginner and hesitate to comment on posts from prospects. Could you speak to that a little bit? Thanks.
Of course. So the first thing is I have a stat for you. So last week, I spent my entire week writing up a report for a survey that we did to the Marketing Meetup community. And we had 1,300 responses to the survey asking marketers how they're feeling. And one of the questions asked folks in not these words, but in similar words, do you ever feel like an imposter in your job? Over half of the people gave a resounding yes to feeling like an imposter in their job. And the most interesting part of this was that the largest category of people who felt like an imposter were actually the seniors in our industry. They weren't the juniors, they were the people who were sort of like 15, 16 years of experience in heads of, in directors, titles, etc. Now, the reason why I bring that up is that part of your question is, I still feel like a beginner and hesitate to comment on posts. The thing that I want to put across is we all feel like a beginner. None of us feel like we know everything, and there won't be a moment in your career where you show up and you go, you know what, I know everything. So that's the first thing to know, because like I think if you let that feeling stop you, then it will always stop you, because there won't be a moment where you feel like you've nailed it. The second thing to mention though is that I think what we often do is overestimate how important it is to feel like we're coming across as impressive. Actually, what is as valuable to a conversation with someone is asking great questions. So for example, if you're on the post of someone in MarTech and you're curious about what they're writing, then leaving your reflection from your perspective And then just like a little question that is actually sincere that you want to find out. So not for the sake of engagement. Like, I'm not saying ask one of those really trivial questions like, do you like the grass outside or something like that, you know, but like, you know, I thought your post was really interesting for reason A, reason B, reason C. I'm curious about D. I don't know whether you could offer me an opinion. And like, honestly, that as an opportunity to create a conversation and a relationship is just as, if not more valuable than a comment which sort of just puts across an expert view. So a very long answer, but the answer is no one feels like an expert. Everyone is a beginner for all of their career. Offer your opinion if you have one, but also ask great questions. And these are the opportunities with your prospects, but also to build your network going forward.
Thank you. I see one last question here. Hi, Joe. Does liking a post also count compared to comments and posting on your target audience post? I believe that's what we know.
For me, this is like, I would really heavily encourage, if you are trying to build a genuine relationship with these people, then thoughtful comments is going to go a lot further than just liking. It depends who the person is. Obviously, if they get one like on their post and you're the person liking it every day, then, you know, maybe they'll notice. But it's a very passive way to assume that people are going to sort of get in touch with your products or services after you liking their posts. I think it would be a far stronger approach just to go commenting and try and build a relationship that way rather than just liking posts. The last thing to say is, like, so much of LinkedIn these days, there's so much AI on LinkedIn with people automatically liking things, automatically commenting, that like it just doesn't stand out in the way that it would have done sort of 10, 15 years ago. So like being genuine, being human is the thing which will take you a lot further.
Okay, I see another one from Dennis. How would you recommend approaching two slightly different target audiences at the same time? On one side, I'd like to connect with content strategists and content managers who may need a strong content strategy executor, someone who can help turn their plans into high quality content, while I continue learning the strategy side under more experienced people. On the other side, I would also like to attract direct clients like startups that need someone who can own more of the content process, especially if they don't have a content manager in-house yet. How would you suggest positioning for both audiences without confusing the market? And what kind of content would you post to attract each personnel?
Nice. I love that. Cool. So let me take it piece by piece, because it's a longer question. It's a great question, but I want to make sure that I show the respect. So I would probably, if I was thinking about this, probably try and find the line that unites both of them. And it may be that the line that unites both of them is you, Dennis, you know, and that's enough as your character and stuff like that. But in both of your target markets here, you've said you'd like to connect with content strategists and content managers, but you've also spoken about, on the other side, you'd like people who own more of the content process. So the common line between these two things is content, right? And so while there's a different messaging thread that sits beneath each of these things, then the top headline is content. And so you become the content guy with sub-brands of those respective things. The second thing that strikes me is that, like, when you're writing, then such a small proportion of your audience is actually going to see what you write day to day. And so I wouldn't worry about having two messaging threads that are slightly different to one another. I just make sure that you're consistent across those particular ones. In terms of the right kinds of content for each of those things, then honestly, the best first step is always just start with research. And so I would go out to the people that you would like to have as your potential clients, and sort of saying, you know, asking 3 very specific questions in LinkedIn DMs and say, I'm trying to build my business. I've got 3 questions that I'd love to ask you. And it's not an ask for 15 minutes of their time, but 3 questions that you think could really help you. And if you can, offer some sort of incentivization for them as well. So like, you know, I'd be happy to take a look at a page of your website, for example, at the end as well, as a thank you. That may be the opportunity to understand their challenges, their problems, at which point then you can start tailoring your content around their challenges rather than what I would assume about their content. Because the truth is, I don't know who they are because I'm not those people. They know who they are because they're living and breathing their problems every day.
Okay, that's the last question we're taking for this session. Thank you so much, Joe. All your reviews were very helpful, and I believe for everyone here, if you enjoyed this session, then you would want to keep an eye on our social pages, and if you're on Slack, yes, on our Slack channel for upcoming events. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a nice day. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you very much. Appreciate having me. Take care, everyone.
Bye.